Yeah, mine's. Good afternoon, and we will begin momentarily. Thank you. No problem. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us at this special board meeting for the Franklin-McKinley School District. We will go ahead and begin with item 1, call to order, and item 1.01, roll call. You want me to do that? Board Member Sanchez?
Present.
Board Member Rodriguez?
Present.
Vice President Tran?
Present.
And I'm Imona Absalberta and present. We will now go to item 2, the welcome and explanation to audience. Item 2.01, the information explaining the board meeting procedures and how citizens can address the board will be read at this time.
So good afternoon. The way the agenda is organized is that we will have public comment on items that are not agendized as normally agendized. Later on in the agenda, there will be opportunities for the community to speak to the board after having heard the interviews of the candidates. And so the public has an opportunity to offer a comment to the board directly. We have posted the agenda with the instructions like we normally have at our regular board meetings in which the public can participate virtually.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go to item 3, the adoption of the agenda. Item 3.01, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Hearing none, we will move to item 4.02, or 3.02, board member and administration requests to change the order of the agenda. Hearing none, we will go to item 4, discussion and/or action regarding the provisional appointment process. Item 4.01, the discussion and/or action regarding board vacancy.
The committee met on the 23rd as requested by the board to interview 4 candidates that had applied by the deadline of June 18th. The committee was only able to interview 3 out of the 4 as there was some confusion in regards to the data of the interview. And so because the board did request the committee to bring all 4 of them forward, 4 of them were brought forward. The board has the comments from the committee from the interviews from the 23rd in your packet. You can see the comments that the stakeholders and the committee made in terms of strengths and concerns. Subsequent this morning, I did receive a email from one of the candidates, Ms. Gasca, that she was withdrawing her application due to a family emergency. So she will not be here this afternoon to interview with the board. If there are any other questions in terms of the process up to this point from the board.
Go ahead, Board Member Rodriguez.
Yes, Juan, I have one question. Is it possible to put a table in front of the chair so that the candidate can feel a little more comfortable?
Yes, actually, we're going to ask the candidate to speak from the podium because this is the mic that broadcast through YouTube with higher quality. But I can certainly put a table there so as they come in, they can sit down, feel more comfortable. But they will be speaking from the podium.
Got it. So when they're answering the questions, they're going to get up and then speak from the podium?
Yeah, they'll remain here throughout the question period once we get started.
Oh, okay, then there's no need to
Okay.
put a table there.
Yeah,
then.
it's just
Okay.
that through the various meetings we've had, we've recognized that the portable mics do not broadcast a good sound quality when it's broadcast through YouTube.
Okay.
This mic and the ones that you have in front of you are a higher quality.
Okay, that's fine then. Thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion?
Also, in your packet, you will find a confidential memo from legal in regards to questions about conflict of interest and things of that nature. So please do review that. Council has reviewed all the documents and everything that we have before you. And so we are in line with the procedures and the appointment process, or the provisional appointment for the vacancy.
Any other questions, board members, comments?
Yeah, one more. So I noticed the memo is about 5 pages long, or the letter, 5 pages long. And we think we have a representative from the attorney's office here. I'm wondering if we could ask if there's any really major points of this that we should keep in mind, or is it just everything?
So maybe if you could just briefly summarize any of the items that were on the memo
Can I
that we
just
have.
ask, are we allowed to do this?
I can highlight what the issue is and why I sent the letter. And
Is that okay to do publicly?
I believe it is. So during the interviews of the candidates by the community advisory group, it was brought to my attention that one of your applicants is a spouse of a classified non-management employee and is also an employee of a law firm that has a contract with the school district. And so after discussion with the superintendent, there was just some follow-up just to be able to ascertain or determine whether that would raise any issues relating to the appointment. And that letter memo discusses this issue. But I believe that under the the Political Reform Act and the Government Code, with respect to the spouse's employment, that does not disqualify this person from being appointed to the board if that is the board's decision. And then also that candidate has indicated that if the board is inclined to select him, that his employer, the law firm, will disengage from its work for the district.
I did have a follow-up question, really. In terms of the contracts that we talked about here with our unions, would there be a conflict in terms of if there were, then what would happen at that point?
So thank you for that question. So there are exceptions under the Political Reform Act and under the Government Code where the spouse has been employed by the district for more than 1 year, which I understand that to be the case here.
Yes.
And the board can still take action subject to certain requirements, but the board can still take action on things such as collective bargaining agreements where it's affecting a whole class of employees. As long as the board member is not involved in decision-making relating specifically and exclusively to their spouse, that's okay. And there are exceptions for that under the law.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments, board members? Thank you, Rogelio, for that information. Based on that, so we can now go to item 4.02, the review and approve candidate questions. I believe each of you should have received 2 sets of those questions.
Yeah, so you have 2 sets. The first set is the questions that the advisory committee asked on the 23rd. You have the notes of that. Obviously, you can include any of those questions as well. Do you have another more extensive list of questions, possible questions that the board can ask? So at this point, I would ask that you all sort of review those questions and then decide which questions you would like to ask so that I can go ahead and include those and print a fresh copy of the questions that every candidate will be asked. And I will provide that to the candidates so they have it in front of them as they're going through the interview process.
So we're only allotted 5 questions.
You have to say that again.
So we only can,
No,
Based on
you
the assessment
can
forms.
ask as many questions as you want. The committee had 5 questions, those 5 questions, but the board can ask as many questions as you would like, as you would agree to.
They just need to be consistent across candidates.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that every candidate must be asked the same questions.
I was looking at questions 9 and 10. You could combine that one. You could make it one question, number 9 and 10.
And also number 8 can as well, because it might be related to 9 and 10 as well. So I wonder if we can combine 8, 9, and 10. Or maybe even not even ask number 8 and just ask 9 and 10 as a combined question. What do you guys think?
No, I think we still have to see what they would answer with number 8, because that's so critical
Okay,
to us right now in the district. But 9 and 10, I think we can combine those.
mhm.
We're in agreement to combine 9 and 10.
Yes.
yes.
So we'll combine questions 9 and 10.
I also think number 1 is a unique enough question that it might be one important question to ask. Number 1, what do you guys think?
Yes.
We'll start with number 1, yes.
You mean from the advisory committee or from the actual?
From the long list, the larger list. Are we to go off of that one or both of them?
Well, we can take the other ones into consideration if there's any we want to modify on the
Okay.
longer list. I think some of these questions are similar, like number 3 on our list is similar to number 1 on the advisory committee list.
Mhm. Okay, so I'm confused. Do we draw from the long list of questions first,
So this is the list that we're going to be
going from?
moving. Yeah, so depending on whatever we'd like to vet, I'd suggest we do it from the list that we're vetting, which says June 29th.
Got it.
And then if there's additions or changes to that list, we can make it to that list of questions. So you can certainly look at the advisory committee's questions and see if there's anything we want to pull from there. I'd like for us to consider a question, either modifying a question on here or adding a question since we've combined one, but around equity.
Can you modify number 4 then on that? I think that's the one closest to
Which one?
easiest to modify,
Question 4.
to have equity in it.
Yeah,
The other question I was thinking of potentially is number 7.
me too. I was thinking number 7 might be, we might be able to combine number 4 and number 7 and include the issue of equity included in that as well. Maybe say, please include equity.
Or we could say, please, instead of key issues related to equity.
Yeah, actually like Tom's suggestion on number 4, because it's a lot broader. It's a lot broader question. And then we can actually insert English language learners as well in that, equity and English language learners as well. Or somehow, what do you think?
That way, we don't need to ask number 7 then.
Okay.
We're taking
We're
numbers.
going to take content from number 7 and include it with number 4 and add in equity. Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
Mhm, no, we're good.
Is that okay with you, Rudy?
Yes. I think number 5 is a good key question to ask as well. It will also,
Give us
we'll be able to
information.
share what they know about our district.
Yes.
What do you guys think?
That's yes. So
That'd be good.
1. So just to recap, we want 1.
Yeah, so we'll keep 1 as is.
Mhm.
I think
Keep
4.
4 with
as
the
is.
modification, 5, 8, combine 9 and 10.
Yes.
And you think that's a fair amount of questions, or do we need to add any more?
I'm good
It's
with
about
those.
5.
I'm good with those. George, you have another one you want to ask?
No, I was going to ask Maimona and the other board members, maybe at the end, after we finish the questions, maybe ask the candidate if they have any final thoughts in terms of their applying for this position, if they want to share with us, you know,
And that
if
can
they would like us to consider, that's not on here, that they may want to bring forth.
Like, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
No, it'll still fall within the time. So whatever time they have left over is how they'll be able to answer that question.
Right. Are we gonna have a timer for 45 minutes? Are we strictly ending
We
this
need
at
to.
45 minutes?
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4,
I
5,
think that's
6.
part of making it equitable. Is that correct? Know that each person would get the
Up to
same amount of
45
time?
minutes.
Yes, that would be part of the fairness aspect.
So yeah, we probably should if we have a timer, just so the candidate knows.
We can certainly use less, right?
But I think it's just about giving the opportunity to be given the same amount of time. Yeah, the only thing is we need to be careful about the clarifying questions because they can't, we need to
Right.
try to stay as consistent as possible across candidates.
As in, we can't go off on tangent.
I also recommend that, so 45 minutes for six questions, basically. Maybe, you know how some people who were interviewed take longer than they should get real wordy. So maybe just give them in 5 minutes. Can you please share for each, you know, try to limit your answer to 5 minutes.
What I'll do, I will.
I just want to make sure we have the correct questions. Yes, can you? So we have question 1, we're keeping as is. Question 2, we're keeping as is. Question 3, we're keeping as is. Question 4, we are combining with question 7 to add at the end of that second sentence about English language learners and equity. Question 5, we are keeping as is. Question 6, we're keeping as is. Question 7 is removed because we're combining it with question 4.
We're asking 6 questions.
Question, well, we still have 2 others. Question 8, we are keeping as is, and question 9 and 10, we're combining. Question, then the final thing is final thoughts or anything else they'd like to.
So it was my understanding that we weren't going to ask 2, 3, and 6 because we picked the key
One.
questions as those 6?
Yeah.
Am I not following this correctly?
Mm,
That was what I was thinking too.
Yeah, we're only going to ask 1, 4, combined with 7,
I
5,
missed that.
8, and then 9 and 10, those 6 questions.
So we're
Or
removing
5.
question 2.
Removing question 2, removing question 3, removing question 6.
Right.
Yes, yes. mhm.
So
Right,
we
I'd
can-
like to add either keep that aspect of the
Mhm,
role in
that's
number
correct.
2 or keep number 6.
So we can keep numbers. I'm fine with keeping number 6, Jen.
So we can remove question 2, but keep number 6. Is
Yes.
that okay?
So remove question 2 and 3 and keep number 6?
Yes.
You okay with that, George? I'm fine with
That's
that.
fine.
So we should have 7 questions in total.
Yes.
The 7th question is the final thoughts question one.
So 7:45, that's about 6 minutes a question. So if we we recommend that they try to keep it to 5 minutes for each answer, then that should leave us a little leeway in case we need the padding. What do you guys think?
In case what was the last comment you made?
Need extra time.
Leave a little padding in case they want, in case we need it.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Are we going to assign who's going to ask which question now?
You can.
One will print it out. Let's go ahead and wait for him and then we can sign up for two of the questions, 1 or 2.
Board President, may I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Since the board will be taking an action on the questions, and there have been some edits to the document in front of you, in the interest of transparency, I would recommend that you read the final questions into the record and then call for any public comment on the questions themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, confused with all these.
Yeah, just to make sure. Thank you. Yeah. So we are on item 4.02, and I will be reading the questions for clarity prior to us taking the vote. I'll just wait till, this isn't- He has it printed. Okay, so I will go ahead and read the questions, board members, and for the public as well, just for clarity. So these are the questions that the board will be asking of each of the candidates. And then we'll see if there's any public comment on this item as well. So the first question, please tell us who you are and why you want to serve on this board. Question 2, What would you like to do as a member of this board? Please share your vision for public education and key issues you believe need to be addressed by the Board of Trustees as it pertains to English learners and overall equity. Question 3, what are you proud of in this district? What would you like to accomplish as a board member? Which is your highest priority and why? Question 4, the school board commitment does require a considerable amount of time on the part of any individual. Does your current situation allow time for you to be a committed board member and devote the time necessary for this position? Question 5, we are a district in declining enrollment. Do you have any ideas on how we can address this issue so that we do not lose any more students on a yearly basis? Question 6, what is your opinion of charter schools? Do you support the expansion of charter schools in our district? Why or why not? And 7, final thoughts that you want to share with the board. So those are the proposed questions at this time. Board members, any final feedback?
Do we need a motion and approval of these?
We will after we take public comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so hearing that there's no public comments, there's no other discussion, we'll accept a motion. This is item 4.02.
Move to approve the final board vacancy interview questions as written, as amended and written.
Second.
Right, item 4.02, the approval of candidate questions has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. So those questions have been published online as well for the public to view with the agenda. We will now go to item 5, oral communications.
Board President, just a quick clarification. So the motion passed 4-0 with member Rosado absent since she is disqualified from engaging in the process.
Thank you for the clarification so that it's clear to the public as well. We will now go to item 5, oral communications. Members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. So this is pertaining to issues that are not agendized. So we will go to item 5.01, public comments. Do we have any public comments at this time? Hearing none, we will now go to item 6, the interview of candidates and nominees and appointment of candidate for provisional appointment to the board vacancy. We will go ahead and start with item 6.01, the interview of candidates for provisional appointment to the Board of Trustees to fill the vacancy resulting from the resignation of Carrie Rosado. Superintendent Cruz. So prior to us starting, we can establish who will be asking which questions. So I can. Yes. Go ahead and do that. Do we want to?
I think we're going to assign the questions first.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so just so everyone can get their paperwork set up, the first candidate that we will be interviewing is Freddie Sidbury Jr.
Yes.
And so if you want to get those materials included, it looks like there's one for me?
Is the application that the candidate submitted. In the packet, you also have the committee's summary of each of the candidates, so they are stapled separately.
But there is not one for this candidate.
Correct, because he was the candidate that was not able to come. Excuse me, yes. I should have just included it as a blank so that it was
Just so that everyone's clear on that.
missing.
So I can start with the first question then, and then we can go. Ton, would you like to ask the second question?
Yes.
George, can you ask the third question?
Which one? Number 3?
Yes.
That's fine.
Rudy, you can ask question 4. Ask question 5. Yes, Ton, you can ask 6. George, you can ask 7. Rudy, is that okay?
I would like to recommend that maybe you and George switch 5 and 7 so that you end the interview. What do you think? So George, you're going to ask number 5.
Well, the final thoughts?
No, number 5. And
So
then
George, you're number 3 and 5, and I'll do 7 and 1. Ton, you will do 2 and 6, and Rudy, you will do question 4.
good listener.
Go with those one more time. Which ones do I get?
George, you are questions 3 and 5.
That's fine. 3 and 5 is fine.
Everyone has the materials ready? The Superintendent Cruz, if you could bring the candidate. It's about 5 minutes. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. So in terms of the process, we will be asking a series of questions, and if you could come stand at the podium when we ask the questions so that we can, so that anyone viewing via Zoom can also hear your responses. We have allocated about 45 minutes for each candidate. And so that'll come out pacing wise about 5 to 6 minutes per question to give yourself some time. Superintendent Cruz will also be keeping track of time. So if you'd like to just look in his direction, he'll be able to give you an indication of how much time you have left. So with that, I think we will go ahead and get started. If you'd like to come to the podium, we'll be beginning with the questions. I believe you have the questions in front of you as well. Right. So we'll go ahead and start with the first question. Please tell us who you are and why you want to serve on this board.
Good morning. My name is Freddie Sidbury. I'm a resident of District 7 and the Franklin-McKinley School District for approximately 30 years. And the main reason I think I want to be a part of this process is because being a member of corporate America and the private sector and a small businessman, I have a pretty good understanding as to what it takes to run a company and also the importance of having children in the district itself. I have 5 children that are in the public school system in our district, Franklin-McKinley. They're doing extremely well. We participate extremely, we participate, my wife and I, quite a bit in the school. I have a clear understanding as to what it takes to raise a child in public school. I'm a protege of public school. My wife is, and we had one son that actually went through the whole system. He's about 44 now. But my other kids, I have 2 at Meadows, 1 at California Connection Academy. And also I have 2 in Yuba Brenner High School. Thank you.
Thank you.
What would you like to do as a member of this board? Please share your vision for public education and key issues you believe need to be addressed by the Board of Trustees as it pertains to English language learners and overall equity.
Well, as a member of the board, I would like to see as much progress towards taking care of our children, our staff members, our teachers. We need to more or less start looking at safety issues. We need to look at and observe the diversity in our community. There's just an array of things that I think I bring the experience. As I said before, I've worked with the schools, and I think we're doing a good job. It's just right now, the way the climate is, this COVID-19 is an issue. And, we need to find ways to get our other communities involved with the children and their way of learning through immigration and things of that nature. And I think by me being an individual that has worked with various groups throughout the district, I have proven myself in my community that I know how to work and gather individuals to come together as a unit and be successful. The vision is pretty clear, but we need to make sure that we stay on course. We can't deviate. If we're going to go by our mission statement and your core values, all parents are looking for right now is whatever you put on paper, make it good. We need to follow through with all of the statements that we make, making sure that we have qualified teachers, make sure that our students are being taken care of, make sure that we have more parent involvement as much as humanly possible. And one of the reasons why that's an issue is because a lot of parents are still afraid of immigration. They're not going to come out to these PTA meetings and things of that nature. So we need to find ways to encourage them to participate more. As it pertains to overall equity, I think we're doing a fantastic job there. As I said, I've belonged to many organizations within the school system, from PTA to school site councils, working with the county with foster children. I'm a parent of foster children. Not anymore. I adopted all of our children, all 5. So we just need to make sure that we clearly have a clean-cut understanding of what we want as board members to have our district and our look like.
Mr. Severi, I have question number 3.
Mhm.
What are you proud of in this district? What would you like to accomplish as a board member? Which is your highest priority and why?
I'm mostly proud of the way the district communicate with parents. As a parent, I've never had an issue not being able to contact a teacher or a principal. They have allowed my wife and myself to participate on their campuses in many functions, from field trips I've done to running miles around the track at Meadows with Miss Moore. So that is one of the most important things to me, communicating to parents, because sometimes a lot of parents are just afraid to come out. And so we need to make it more comfortable for parents to to come and participate in their child's educational process. What would I like to see the board accomplish? Put in more safety issues. Put in more ways to make our staff and teachers safe, our children safe. We live in a climate today that's very dangerous. We have no idea what can happen one morning or one afternoon. So we can't lose focus on that. The budget. We need to lobby a lot more for a larger budget to make these things happen. It costs money to run schools. You know that, and I know it, and the public knows it. But we really need to get down to business and lobby a lot more. Because if we're gonna take care of, when it comes to safety, our teachers, our staff at those schools, the children at those schools, there's a lot of things we gotta put in place. And those things are, I mean, you can walk in some schools and you push a button, you go through the front door. And there's nothing there to protect that staff worker right there. So we need to not lose focus on that. Because as I said pretty quickly just now, the climate is totally different when I was in school and many of you. So it's imperative that we keep that focus there. I'm just passionate about children and their safety. I mean, today, children are a lot smarter, a lot quicker learners than when I was in school. And we need to make sure that we just don't put them in a small box and don't allow them to express themselves within reason. The highest priority is COVID-19, the pandemic. Everybody feels like that, oh, it's about over, but it's not over. We have another one out there. So we can't put our guard down. We got to continue to insist on cleanliness, on the things that you already have in place, but we need to improve on those things. Masks, cleaning, even hiring additional help. But that goes back to what I said earlier about a budget. You got to have the money in order to hire these people to do that. You can't have this one custodian to clean the whole school. And we need to, if it's not already in place, if you haven't already put it in place, we need to make sure that most of these students, I mean, most of the schools, they have a regiment where they clean, I guess, certain times of the day or whatever. But we got to make sure these parents understand. Look, when my kid go to school, he has to wear that mask or she has to wear that mask. You got to wash your hands. You got to do all these things. But COVID-19 right now, I think is one of the highest priorities. And then COVID-19, safety, the budget, you know, it's a lot of things that's going on now. And we have to remember, I think one of the best things that this district did, and I want to go back very briefly, is when they allowed the students to have computers in their homes. I mean, that was fantastic. I was worried about that, having 5 kids. It went well. Like I said, I have one son, he's a straight A student over at California Connection. And the other 2, my twins, they're at YB High School. I know that's not in your Franklin-McKinley School District, but it's in East Side School District. And they have a 3.4 or 3.1, I think. And then the other 2 guys are in the 4th and 3rd grade. But that's a priority to me. And the budget is, like I said, it's one that we need to lobby. If you need more funds, we can't sit back and just let Sacramento send us money. We have to find other ways because we need to hire more people to get these schools and keep these schools clean and safe for our students and staff. That's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sidbury. I have the next question. The school board commitment does require a considerable amount of time on the part of any individual. Does your current situation allow time for you to be a committed board member and devote the time necessary for this position?
Yes, it does, but can I add on to that? Okay, thank you. Right now, I'm a commissioner for the city of San Jose. I'm working with the redistricting commission 4 years, and I'm also on the reimagining board for community safety with Chief Mauta. And I just left one organization called CAMP/Multicultural Community Team. And I'm aware of what it takes to make sure that I'm present when it's necessary. I understand that with these other organizations that I belonged to at the time, we had to go out of town many times. We had to travel to Washington, D.C. because a lot of the programs that I was a part of were federal funded programs. So we had to travel. I had to travel throughout California. So that is not an issue with me. I won't take on anything that I won't make a commitment to. And I encourage my sons and daughters to do the same thing. We're trying to start them early. Even as scouts, we make sure that we make time for that because that's something that they enjoy doing. So I have a wife of 48 years, I'm sorry. And we've been committed to volunteer work in this city for many, many years. It goes all the way back to George Shirakawa Sr., you know, when he was a city council person. So we've been doing this for many years and I understand the concept. Thank you.
Mr. Sidbury, I have question number 5. We are a district in declining enrollment. Do you have any ideas on how we can address this issue so that we not lose any more students on a yearly basis?
Well, you know, sometimes we have to make sure we understand why we're losing these children. It can be an economic issue, okay? And that's what seems to be the number one. People are losing their jobs. People have lost their jobs due to the pandemic. So they had to find other places to live. You have some students that are sleeping on the street as we speak right now. They don't have a place to go. And some of them are just embarrassed to go to school the way they look. There's no clear-cut answer as to why, you know, but that's my way of thinking. That's what I come up with. It's an economic issue. You know, I've had the opportunity to sit in a classroom, a math class, my wife and I, with my daughter. And I noticed things in the class that disturbed me a little bit, and that goes because a lot of times the kids leave home, but they don't go to school. Sometimes they just go to the store across the street, hang out there, or they go to a park. A lot of people were apprehended from the federal government or the state government, you know, because they didn't have the right documentation. We need to find a way, and I understand the question, but I think we need to look at housing, affordable housing, which our city is doing a pretty good job at that right now. I used to be on the Housing Commission, served 2 years there. So we're doing a decent job there, but I have to say that I think it's a fear of being apprehended by the immigration department and also an economic issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sidbury, what is your opinion of charter schools? Do you support the expansion of charter schools in our district? Why or why not?
Charter schools are still owned by the federal government, if I'm not mistaken. I think they have some input as to keeping your grades have to be a certain level, or you have to have such a higher graduation. You may have to correct me on that. I've never had any experience with charter schools before. I think they work in many instances because there are many churches that offer charter schools to children or to parents. It gives them a sense of safety. They feel like their children would do better in charter schools versus public schools. I don't have a negative, any negative feedback on charter schools. I think they do a little bit better job with us when it comes to student ratio versus teacher ratio student. I think in many instances, we have too many kids in one class. 15 would be a great number. We got to have teachers to fill that slot. And it goes back to being able to hire and be diverse in our thinking and hiring. So charter schools, like I said, I never gave it an opinion, but I just know a little bit about charter schools. And they seem to be springing up all over. Emmanuel Baptist Church is one that has a charter school here in the East Side. That's the only one I really communicated with as far as knowing the minister there. But that's all I can honestly mention on that. Mhm.
Thank you. So the final question is just, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the board?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I also want to apologize to Superintendent Cruz. I gave him the wrong email address. I have two. And I blew it. I really did blow it on that. And so I'm just very honored that you took the time out of your day to give me an opportunity to say some of the things I wanted to say a long time ago. But as I was saying earlier, our commitment, and I say our commitment to District 7 has been one that has been an enjoyment to my wife and myself. We have 6 children. My oldest son, he's married now, but my other 5 guys are the joy of my life. And we've had nothing but success in the public schools. And teachers and staff members, especially at Bridges and Meadows, are schools that have allowed us to participate in many of the functions. A lot of my involvement with schools was mostly on the high school level because we only had one son at that time. And, from Booster Club, PTA, and football liaison, parent clubs, and all that stuff I used to be a part of and run, we did a very decent job. I mean, I go way back also to Mr. Richard Frias. He was over at YB, and we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. I've always wanted to be a part of the board. And now I come with a little bit more ammunition, I think, that's positive. If you look at the little sheet that I gave you, it didn't really say all the organizations that I belong to, but I try to just give you a brief look into Freddie Sidbury. And I just want to make sure that I'm always honest, my commitment. I'm a good listener and I follow through. And when I come to meetings, I want to be prepared and ready to work. And I hope that you consider me as the next board member, because you'll see that not only my commitment with the city of San Jose, but with the county, San Jose. I'm a pretty good guy, I think. At least that's what they tell me. So I just hope that you give me that opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and coming to
Okay,
speak with us today.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Candidate will be Mr. Martinez. I do think there are two packets. Potentially three. This is a good one. This is a good one. Okay. It says advisory committee. So, yeah. I think we need to- Yes, if you could bring Mr. Martinez, our next candidate. Yes. Afternoon, Mr. Martinez.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. So in terms of the process, we just wanted to go over that. So we will be asking you a series of questions, and I believe you have the questions in front of you as well. We'll read those out. If you could come to the podium when we're ready to ask and answer those questions so that any public that's viewing online can also hear your responses clearly. We've allotted 45 minutes per candidate. And so that comes out to about 5 or 6 minutes just for your own pacing. Superintendent Cruz is keeping track of time. So if you want just to take a look over to him every once in a while, he can give you kind of an idea if you're running out of time. And other than that, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you again for being here. If you want to come to the podium.
Thank you very much.
So I will go ahead and start us off with the first question. Please tell us who you are and why you want to serve on this board.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable trustees, superintendent, members of the public. My name is Manuel Martinez. I'm a proud parent here at Franklin-McKinley of 2 students. One who is attending Shirakawa and going into 1st grade, my little daughter, 6-year-old Megan. And the other is my son, 12-year-old boy named Manuel, who just finished here at Shirakawa and will be attending College Academy. He's actually there right now during the summer course. I begin with that proud fact because that drives the basis for why I want to be a board member. I am an attorney by trade. During the day, I practice law for one of the largest education law firms in the state of California, if not the United States, Lozano Smith. I focus primarily in education law, but that skill set, as I transition into my volunteer work here at Franklin-McKinley, I look through everything that I do here primarily as a parent, not as a lawyer, not as a professional, but primarily what's best for kids, my kids and the kids of others. When I thought long and hard about this position and why I would want to serve, I see this board at the precipice of a big opportunity. We're coming out of the pandemic, and moving forward, we're at a kind of a unique time where money is coming in, one-time money. As many of you who've been on the board for many years realize that the budgets are cyclical. It's not going to be this nice all the time. We're not going to have flush funds all the time. The opportunity is now. And I felt the call to this position because I feel that I can bring a voice, I can bring a perspective to help use this as an opportunity, not simply to get back to status quo before the pandemic, but really to launch us in a direction that is helpful. And I don't say that that's going to be one board member that does that. Nobody can do that by themselves, let alone somebody who has not sat on the board. You have all been on the board for many, many years. I speak of this as a partner to continue the work that this board has already started and to continue forward with the partners that we have, the partners in labor, the partners in our community, the partners with our contractors, to see where are we and where can we go with the resources that we have and the challenges that are facing us right now. People are scared. People are wondering where are they going to go in terms of school. The fall is going to present a lot of challenges. And as a fellow trustee, I think as a parent, I can help lend voice to some of that perspective. Because as I said to your committee before, the success of this district is personal to me. It has always been personal to me. Looking back at the volunteer work that I have done for this community, I have always felt that the achievement across the board in equity, in resources, in enrollment, all the way down to simple things like a field trip. These are all things that I felt that I am obligated to bring forward in whatever way I can to help advance Franklin-McKinley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. The next question is, what would you like to do as a member of this board? Please share your vision for public education and key issues you believe need to be addressed by the Board of Trustees as it pertains to English language learners and overall equity.
Well, in terms of the first part of the question, what would I like to do as a member of this board? Believe it or not, and it's not as to this board, it's to all boards, is to maintain functionality. Functionality is critical. The board operates as a unique creature of the entire apparatus of this governmental agency. The board represents the community. The board embodies the goals and the visions that are set and passed down to staff to effectuate, to implement. That is key. If the board is not functional, the system is not functional. This board is functional. I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm saying that I wish to volunteer to keep it functional, to keep a collaborative voice, to keep a collaborative perspective, a parent's perspective, to kind of help further the success that has already been achieved and to look towards future success. My vision of public education begins with my commitment to public education. For nearly my entire life, I am a proud product of public education. I was born and raised in Eastside San Jose. I attended Mount Pleasant Elementary School District. I graduated from James Lick High. I attended public university at UCLA. My first experience in private education wasn't until my Juris Doctorate at law school. But I believe deeply in public education. It comes from my family. My father was a board member for many years at the Mount Pleasant Elementary School District, I want to say for 17 years. I remember being at those board meetings as a child, and my father and my mother, who was a PTA president, telling me why it's important to have public education. Education is the key to uplifting someone regardless of their circumstances. As we have seen over the last year of strife in our country, it has been very, very revealing that there are parts of our society that struggle with critical thinking and how to process and understand how to take in information. What is true? What is not true? How do I hold my public officials accountable? How do we achieve true opportunity and equity? Those things do not come from elected officials. Our democracy depends on an active society. As the former President Barack Obama said, citizenship and participation is the driving force that makes our democracy healthy. And we need public education to help folks meet that obligation. And for me, public education is that key. It is that opportunity. We are the gatekeepers for that, for many, many people. And I believe strongly in our budget being the strongest budget in the area, our staff being the strongest staff in the area. I mentioned in my application, there are families who see differently and walk across the street to other organizations to take their kids for education. And I'm not here to disabuse anybody of that. A personal choice is something sacred for each family. But my goal and my commitment to public education is to make sure that whenever somebody is deciding where do I want to take my child to be educated, the first thing that comes to mind is to say, you know what? Franklin-McKinley does a damn good job. Franklin-McKinley is where my child ought to be. And it should be at least at the top of their list for why they want or what they want for their child. That is the kind of effort that I wish to see kind of instilled overall throughout our community. Not to say that it's not there for everybody, but I think that's the kind of commitment that you're asking, what do I have for public education? The key issues that need to be addressed by the board, I've outlined in my application. One of them is declining enrollment. That's not something unique to the district. Overall, there are a lot of key factors as to why declining enrollment is being experienced across the state. Some of those things are outside of our control, but what is within our control is going back to what I just said. Being competitive for those students and those families who want a great education. To say, I am absolutely wanting to go to a Franklin-McKinley school for the betterment of my family. The other issues would be the one-time funding that we're receiving. We have to be wise with that. It's not going to come every year. This is historical levels that the budget is being funded at the state level. And we hopefully will invest it in a way that's going to have great returns. We just need to be very strategic about it, very data-driven about it, and hopefully monitor it as these programs are being implemented. And the needs of English language learners overall and equity. I believe deeply in equity. I've been assigned by you to sit on the DEIB, the DEEB committee. I've attended those regularly, as often as I can, and have actively participated. I strongly believe that regardless of anyone's circumstance, regardless of their capability, we need to meet them where they are and provide every student with the maximum opportunity possible to help them achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. We can put that opportunity in the hands of everyone. And it shouldn't just be for those who are highly educated or wealthy. Our society and our particular community has a great disparity between the haves and have-nots. And it's the responsibility for those of us who are privileged to think of those who could use more, who could use more from our own experience, who could use more from our own circumstances to help uplift our community.
Mr. Martinez, I have question number 3. What are you proud of in this district? What would you like to accomplish as a board member? And which is your highest priority and why?
So the first part of the question says, what am I most proud of in this district? I absolutely, without question, am most proud of the equity lens that we have been looking at for some time. We have been looking at it longer than it kind of been in vogue recently with a lot of other entities. Franklin-McKinley actually walks the talk and has been doing that work for some time and is committed to making the work of equity transition throughout the system. It's not just happening in some room with a bunch of folks patting themselves on the back saying this is great work. There really is a commitment here at the district to say, how do we take these concepts of equity and really bring it to our system and really make it living and breathing plan for the folks on the ground. That's what I'm most proud of. Because we are a society of many voices, many colors, many backgrounds, and our society absolutely is better off because of it. Diversity is not something to shy away from. It is not something to silo off. We should embrace, as we do here in our community. We should show others that diversity is a strength. Diversity is a strength, and it comes with challenges, but we're up to the task to meet that. What I would like to accomplish as a board member, again, functionality. I believe strongly in the obligation of a board member to work collaboratively with every board member. That doesn't mean that we're going to agree all the time, but it does mean that once a decision is made, we support that decision with all our heart and move forward with it and champion that decision. Role model the leadership in us as we would expect staff to take that directive as well. I have worked advising or within government agencies my entire political or professional career. And there is no human being that believes in all the laws or all the policies, but absolutely it is the position of those in power to explain why we have these policies and these positions and to move the community forward as best we can in that direction and have the wisdom to know if it doesn't work, that we own that and we make adjustments. That's democracy. That's the process of leadership. That's the process of understanding and working together with board members to listen. My highest priority is excellence, pure and simple. It just comes down to, if I had one word to choose, and there's many that we can choose, the board sets the standard of excellence. Folks will rise to the level of expectation, then we should set a high expectation for ourselves and for others and empower folks to achieve those high, lofty goals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martinez. The school board commitment does require a considerable amount of time on the part of any individual. Does your current situation allow time for you to be a committed board member and devote the time necessary for this position?
Absolutely, without question. I've already looked at all of the calendared events in terms of the board itself. I do not have any conflicts for any scheduled board meeting now. As you know, I regularly attend other board meetings. And what's nice about my job is that I have a lot of flexibility. I don't have a regular set 9 to 5. I know it sounds sad, but I know Mr. Ruiz will understand. I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I am good at time management. The other thing I want to say is that I'm excited about this position. This is a priority for me. I want to be there when called upon by either the board or by the superintendent to be that encouragement that our community needs, wherever we need. I intimately understand what it takes to have the commitment of a board member because I advise other boards. Other boards call me in the middle of the night and explain something is going wrong. And I have learned that you also have a 24-hour commitment. You do not get to decide when an emergency hits, when a child goes missing, when a building is experiencing a calamity, or when a pandemic hits. The call to leadership requires that you always listen for that call. I'm committed to that. I promise you that. And more importantly, not just showing up to the meetings, but showing up prepared. I deeply believe in doing the homework. Why? Because I ask other boards to do that, right? Other boards pay me to talk to them about that. I believe in walking the talk of understanding. And again, we're not experts. I'm not saying that you have to show up as a board member knowing to the penny where everything is. It's the concept. It's where are we going? Knowledgeable of the pros and cons. Having questions, thoughtful questions. Engage with the district, engage with the superintendent, and move forward when necessary. And also the time commitment necessary for sites as well. I think it's important that board members are visible at school sites and be there for the things that you don't talk about or that don't show up on your calendar, like graduations, first day of school, celebrations. Everybody watches, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference when a leader shows up in the community and is there to pat somebody on the back and to encourage families to be involved. Don't underestimate that. I believe that. I commit to doing that.
Mr. Martinez, we are a district in declining enrollment. Do you have any ideas on how we can address this issue so that we not lose any more students on a yearly basis?
I do. In my practice for now well over almost 10 years of just education law, not just as an attorney, I have seen reasons why people leave school districts. Number one, families think that we're not safe. And I'm not saying that specifically about us. I'm saying generically. Families will say, well, it's not safe to go to school. I need to go to a private school, or I need to go to a charter school, or I need to homeschool. I think that I can get a better education somewhere else. I don't feel welcomed. They don't understand me. Whether we want to believe it or not, we can't rely on just our boundaries to bring in the folks. We have to compete. We have to sing our praises, and we have to acknowledge where we can do better and meet the families and ask them why. Like I said, I'm interested in having Franklin-McKinley be at the top of the list, right there with anybody else's choice to say, when I decide to have children here, I'm not having second guesses of saying, wow, I don't want to send them to Franklin-McKinley. I want folks to say, wow, I get to send my kids to Franklin-McKinley. That's a different statement altogether. Have a sense of pride, not a sense of obligation. I strongly believe that we ought to be learning from our friends in the charter school system. You have charter schools. Guess what? You have the power to compel them to give you some of that information. I suggest you use it. The whole purpose of the charter school experiment going back to the 90s was to foster innovation. And the Charter Schools Act says explicitly that that innovation can be shared with school districts. I'm not talking about eliminating them. I'm talking about true partnership where we find out what they're doing right so we can do some of that too and offer another possibility of an educational program for folks. To learn from the people that we have access to. It's not us necessarily versus them. It's about us being better and growing from experience and saying, why does population A want that experience? And what can we do to have some of that here? Your budget is bigger. Your staff is better. There's no reason we shouldn't be seen as the premier educational experience in our area. That's how you can compete. Now, are we going to get everybody? We're not going to get everybody, nor should we. There are situations that are unique to families that are better served by another entity that chooses a different path. That's exactly what the law allows. It's lawful. We're not going to be able to change that law. But there's nothing wrong with working within the boundaries to structure it so we are ahead of the game.
Okay, that segues into our next question. What is your opinion of charter schools? Do you support the expansion of charter schools in our district? Why or why not?
I do not see the question of expansion of charter schools as something that's in the purview of this board. Plain and simple. Unless this board is interested in creating what is called dependent charters. Because frankly, the way that the law is written is that anybody of the public who wishes to create a charter school may. And the presumption then comes upon the board to decide how it fits into our process and whether or not it's lawfully created and whether or not that entity has thought through all of the reasoning for how to start a school. Starting a school is not just something you roll out of bed for. As you well know, it's hard work. Charter petitions are like this thick, 300, 400 pages, because they're starting a school. It has a budget, it has staff, it has to operate with students, disabilities, racial demographics, curriculum. So the better question for whether or not we as a district support the expansion of charter schools, I think the better question again is reflectively, what is it about this? What is it about our community that's asking for charter schools? What is it that we're not offering that we can be offering? So maybe that when those questions for charter schools come before the board, that they're more sincerely something unique that we don't do and we don't want to do. And we have a balance. We have a balance between the charter schools that ought to exist because we truly, as a district, have said we're not providing level of service to that degree over there, as opposed to charter schools that do exactly what we do, but in their words, do it better. That's the kind of expansion that I wouldn't be in favor of, is a charter school who does us better than us. That I would have questions about, and probably more questions for ourselves. I don't blame other folks. I'm more interested in wondering, well, how are we failing in the eyes of, there's going to be what, 100, 200, 300 students that enroll here. The word is out in the mind of that community that we don't do us well. That would be the only situation that I would be concerned about. And in all transparency, I don't review your charter school work. So I don't know who's out there, if there's even somebody who's saying that they do Franklin-McKinley better than Franklin-McKinley. If they're doing truly unique work, they have no problem with me because there is a place for everyone. But at the end of the day, when you approach the question of whether to establish a charter school or not, it's a commentary on us as much as it's a request from the community to establish something new.
Thank you. So the final question here, or I guess statement, is whether you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the board.
Well, thank you. First of all, I really do appreciate your time. This is, you've been through this process once a few years ago.
Mhm.
I remember I was a part of the committee the last time that helped kind of guide, some of the recommendations back then as well. And I do actually recently have, in my professional life, guided boards through this process as well. It's hard, it's difficult. Don't be afraid to ask challenging questions. If you have any challenging questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I know that there are some concerns of, we'll say, whoa, he's a parent. Like, what is that? It's not often, I guess, of the folks on this board to really see kind of a parent. How does that interact? Folks will say, well, he must have some conflicts. I have a wife. She works in HR. There's some conflicts. Oh my God, that's going to be something that never can be done before. I want to at least let this board know that I am well aware of that. That's a bigger problem for me, not for you, for two reasons. I'm the one that gets to go to jail if I violate the law. That's not a problem for this board. What I thought about it is that I don't have anything to do with my children. They get in trouble, they get in trouble. Thankfully, I don't have children that normally get in trouble. Number two, I get to deal with them at home, right? With regards to my wife, I don't get to touch anything regarding my wife. I don't get to touch anything that regards my financial interests, which is no different than the four of you. No public official can influence a decision that will financially benefit themselves. Whether that's a spouse, whether that's a business, whether that's a decision about real estate, so on and so forth. I thought about that well before I submitted this paperwork. Why? Because I advise other board members on this issue, other boards throughout the state of California, how to avoid those problems. I think that it is important to have a self-realization of what I can do and what I can't do. But I want this board to know is that when I applied for this job or this position, I thought very hard about this, how it affects my employer, who also would have nothing to do with this board if I was selected. Why? It's the law. But these are things this should at least tell you how I approach problems in general. I don't shoot from the hip. I research, I think about it. I come to a decision that is reasoned. I listen to the concerns of my family. I listen to the concerns of my employer. And thankfully, I have a support system that said, Manuel, where's your heart? And I said, I want to serve. I want to help. I want to bring whatever I can, to the best of my ability, to make this place a better place as much as I can. And my support system said, then you have our blessings. Because at the end of the day, I believe deeply in Franklin-McKinley. My track record shows that. And it'll still be there long after this position is closed. My children are forever. Our children are forever. And I hope at the end of the day, regardless of who you choose as a trustee to sit with you, that you at least heard one passionate parent say, keep up the good work, let's do better.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate your time and you being here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Superintendent Cruz is the next candidate here. I'm just asking. If not, we can wait for a board member trying to come back. Good afternoon, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you for being here. Thank you. So I'll just go over the format for this process. So we will be asking you a series of questions, which you should have in front of you. We've allotted 45 minutes per candidate. So that comes about to 5 or 6 minutes per questions, if you'd like that for pacing. Superintendent Cruz will be keeping track of time. So if you want to glance over that way every now and then to for your own pacing, that's up to you as well. We are asking, when we ask the questions, if you could come up to the podium so that anyone watching online as well can hear you from the audio there. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. If you'd like to come up to the podium, please. And I will begin with reading that first question. So please tell us who you are and why you want to serve on this board.
My name is Josue David Gonzalez Rivera. I am a parent of a student in Franklin-McKinley School District. Actually, I'll be a parent of 2 students as my youngest one begins kindergarten this next semester. I have been had a pretty good life, and I've understood that my main goal right now, having children, is to, give them the support that they need in order to be successful in life, not just successful, but also happy as best as they can be when it comes to the things that matter most. I want to serve on this board because I believe that everybody counts and everybody has an ability to bring something to the table that, whether constructive or introspective, can help in many ways, in different ways that build a community and make a successful group when we all participate. My purpose on the board is to just, I've been giving it a lot of thought and I've been wondering why myself. I understand that this is going to be a very intensive process as far as being on a board. I know it's very time consuming. I know it's, late nights or a lot of things to read, a lot of things to understand, a lot of, and I'm gonna ask myself, like, why would I want to do that? And I believe the best answer that I can come up with is to understand the process and to provide solutions that maybe a person like me can give. I'm also concerned for our community, and I hope that engagement in school becomes a more productive in our community through my participation.
Thank you.
So what would you like to do as a member of this board? Please share your vision for public education and key issues you believe need to be addressed by the Board of Trustees as it pertains to English language learners and overall equity.
Well, I kind of touched a little bit on what I would like to do as a member of the board, but to further expound on that, I want to make sure that everybody has what they need to do their job. I want to make sure that everybody has a comfortable and safe place for them to operate as individuals and also as a collective group, as a team. I want to make sure that we all have the same vision, the same mission, and that everybody's on board. So as it pertains to what I would like to do as a member, it would be that. And just to provide any, support any way that I can. My vision of public education would be a place where kids are free to be themselves, would be a place for children to actually want to come to school, want to have fun, want to learn in a way that they're excited about, and for teachers not to be stressed. I think that those two are things that are very important: stress of teachers and the stress of children. We know that we're stressed, it's harder to operate and to be successful. But I also believe that stress is important in life because we need to learn how to handle that. So on top of that, I would say that we have a way to deal with stresses when they do come up, because they will come up. And I think that my vision would be a place where we are both addressing the stresses in order for them to be subdued or productive, and also building an environment where it's fun and it's exciting to be in, aside from other things that may go on. Key issues that I believe need to be addressed by the Board of Trustees as it pertains to English language learners and overall equity. So I believe it's important to know and to understand the language that that we all kind of operate with, right? It's kind of our means of communications. If we don't have those means and we can't communicate properly, then obviously things are going to fall through the crack. Obviously things are going to be missed. Obviously, if people don't know how to communicate well, then they're not going to be able to express what their concerns are and or solutions that they may have to different problems as it pertains to their children, as it pertains to their living conditions, as it pertains to their needs in order to provide that safe and kind of exciting world for the child to grow. I believe that people have a choice whether they want to engage in things, and as long as we provide that choice then those who will want to take advantage of that will take advantage of that. Those who don't want to take advantage of that, then we have to provide a certain kind of means in order to accommodate, which from the past experience, I was grateful because I wasn't able to come here personally and I was able to be accommodated. Thank you very much through the Zoom meeting. And it's kind of those little things that make people know that you care. Just make, people understand that there is resources out there that they can tap into, even if they don't understand the language, even if they don't understand the rules and regulations that's going on. But aside from providing the programs that actually give people the ability to learn language and communicate within that language, is also providing people who understand the other languages and also can, express the same things from the English language to their language, so that nobody gets left behind. So nobody gets, felt like they don't care. Nobody cares about them, things like that. As far as equity, well, equity is something that I'm still trying to learn in the way of defining it. I believe that you work hard, that pays off. I believe that if you don't know what to do, then somebody should be able to show you and help you in those matters. And as far as equity, I believe that that's a form of equity that is most prosperous, is to engage the person in a way to compete, in a way to be proud of what they do. For the people who don't have, is a means to engage in the conversation and communication of what do you need in order to compete in life, and to have that self-drive and feel, as a person, just dignity at the end of the day of what you accomplished and how hard you've actually done to make it through the day, because we all live day by day, obviously, and we all plan for the future. And so I think that is the most equitable definition that I can think of. It's just to be able to access that will and drive to compete in your own life, in your own way. If we have resources, I believe that it's already equitable. Books are books. We all need books. We all need chairs. We all need desks. We all need resources. From this district, I see that we all provide a lot of things that I'm super proud of, which is kind of one of the other questions. But if you need food, if you need learning and technology, you guys are already doing that. And I think that that's amazing, because you're giving people a chance to actually compete and have an equitable experience in life, if that's kind of defines it in my perspective.
Mr. Gonzalez, what are you proud of in this district? What would you like to accomplish as a board member? Which is your highest priority and why?
What I'm most proud of in this district is kind of what I was just talking about, that this district has provided a lot of resources to the community, that has enabled a lot of people to engage in different aspects, whether it be, like we talked about classes for learning English, whether it be technology courses for them to get with the times and actually be able to access different resources that aside from the schools and stuff like that in their lives. On top of that, the nourishing of families, which is, a step above what, when I grew up, we knew. I mean, we had to go to lunch and punch in a number if we couldn't, afford the food. And it was just for me. It wasn't for my family. It wasn't for my mother. It wasn't for my brother. If he was in or out of school, it didn't matter. And I believe that that's something to be proud of. That is something to actually hold your head up high at the end of the day, that, you're providing for the community means and ways for them to allow their children to have the best kind of experience in school, period. So if you're part of the Franklin-McKinley School District and you are endowed with a lot of, basically blessed with a lot of resources out there, it's just a matter of being able to tap into them. What I would like to accomplish as a board member, well, as a board, as a person right now, applying for a board member, I'm not gonna pretend like I know what exactly it is that the full scope of it is. I'm sure you guys definitely know way better than me and way more than me what I can and cannot accomplish as far as, you know, limitations and or. But what I would imagine that I could accomplish as a board member is to tap into the unforeseens, tap into the things that maybe people may not pay attention to, get into the minds of parents, you know, in my own perspective, get into the minds of children in my own perspective. But not only that, but the staff at schools, you know, what do they need? What do they require in order to do their job well, especially now with changing times and changing, you know, requirements of cleanliness and other things that are being demanded of them. And so I would think that what I could accomplish as a member at the basic level would be to make sure that everybody has what they need to do their job and to actually enjoy their job, whether it be a you know, a steward of the school who needs a carpet cleaner because the carpets are looking kind of dingy or something like that. They can access that, they have that, and they can be able to do their job and actually come into their work and be proud of their surroundings that they did that. You know, it's just little things like that that makes jobs and living worthwhile, you know, to be able to come into something that you've done and you've accomplished and we can help provide. My highest priority, believe it or not, is simple. It's for the kids to have fun. Me is for the kids and the teachers to have fun, to have, you know, not only fun, but to build upon education through a way that's exciting. How to get to that, I'm not too sure, because I'm alien to the whole, you know, structure of school right now, as far as from your position and from your perspective. But my highest priority would be that as a parent, I want to see my child coming home and saying, I want to go back to school tomorrow. I can't wait. And be on Saturday and he gets up. He's like, oh wait, it's Saturday. I can't go to school. You know, I mean, that would be like amazing to me. And also, you know, watching my children teach each other stuff that they learn, you know, because they retain it. And that, I know it's not very concrete, but would be my highest priority. And I believe that's wise, because if we have that, then, you know, people will want to share what they learn. People will want to share the things that get them up in the day, in the morning, and excited about life in school.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Gonzalez, the school board commitment does require a considerable amount of time on the part of any individual. Does your current situation allow time for you to be a committed board member and devote the time necessary for this position?
Fair question. So my current situation, and I'm guessing we're talking about employment, stuff like that. My current situation is based on my own wills and drives. I do have an employment. I am one of the leads in my company, if not the lead in my company. But I believe that when doors open, you have to step into them or you lose out, you know. And so as far as my current situation, it is dependent on the results of this committee today and obviously the process of selection, to whether or not I step into this door or remain at the door that I'm at. As far as the time that it takes, that would be my main goal, is to be a part of the process and to, you know, put in the time and work that it takes for me to feel the same kind of dignity and happiness and joy that I've been talking about this whole time. And when I come into work, you know, and join you guys in discussing matters or whatever it is that may need to happen, right? So for that, that's what I would devote my time to, and put everything else aside in order to commit to that, for the exception of my family, of course. But yes, that would be my answer to that, sir.
We are a district in declining enrollment. Do you have any ideas on how we can address this issue so that we not lose any more students on a yearly basis?
There's a lot of ideas out there of why there's decline in enrollments. Some people say that the housing market is unbearable. Some people say that, the income inequalities are driving people from left to right to different areas. It's really hard to kind of pinpoint what exactly it is that drives people to want to be a part of a school and to enroll their children into the school. I believe that as a community where I live, I see it. I see people having children every day. You know what I mean? Not like literally, but pretty much on a figurative basis. I see my kids playing with other kids. I see a lot of kids growing up. So I know they have to go somewhere. And I know that the closest school to us is Franklin-McKinley, the one, 7 Trees. And so what it is that we should do in order to get more enrollment, I think is based on what the opinions of the parents are. Why would they go to a different school? That's the question that we should be asking the community. Why would you go to a different school other than ours? Why would you want to go, to a charter school or a school 5 miles away in order for your child to have an education when you have a perfectly good one over here? And that has to be a process that takes time and it takes dedication to actually want to know. Ideas have to come from a knowledge of, a wealth of knowledge. And then we can actually get ideas after we get a wealth of knowledge. That would be my best answer to that.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, what is your opinion of charter schools? Do you support the expansion of charter schools in our district? Why or why not?
To be honest, I decided to enroll my children in public school. I grew up in public schools. As far as charter schools, I know they have a certain caveat that based on their, availability, they can pick and choose which students go, and they can pick the best. The problem is that with the spreading of charter schools, you're going to have less and less chance for public schools to actually rise above, my opinion, based on if you have the ability to choose children and their scores and look at their scores and say, well, this is a bright student, we can go ahead and pick this child and put them in our charter school, and then see another child who may not have a high reading level or something like that, right? And say, well, we can just kind of pass on him right now. Then technically that's going to force that child to end up in our public school systems. And so it makes our work twice as hard. With more and more charter schools, it would be, in my opinion, based on, conversations with other teachers and different types of folks in that field, that, our schools are going to be where everybody else ends up, that charter schools don't want. I may be wrong, but my opinion is that charter schools have the right to exist. They have the right to do what they want. And I believe that us as public school, we should do what we need to do, not based on charter schools, not based on what they do, but based on how can we compete and how can we beat that kind of system that only chooses what they want to choose, and how can we create the people that we do have better or at par with what's going on with charter schools, so that we don't have a stigma, that we don't have this negative connotation when you say public school instead of charter school. I don't believe that what they do is necessarily important as far as what we can do in the public school system. So yeah, do I support? I'm either or, doesn't matter. I don't think that they have anything to do with what we can do as a public school system.
And then the final question there is just an opportunity, if you have final thoughts that you would like to share with the board.
Well, I'm humbled just to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to, if selected, obviously, looking forward to working hard and meeting every one of you and getting to know every one of you, and also the parents and students, and also the staff at schools. My thoughts are that, it takes hard work, and I think that I've kind of already touched on that, most of the theme of it, right? It takes hard work to get to where you want to get to. And that's what I would be bringing to the table, as well as, passion and an open mind to many different things that are out there right now. And I believe that you guys are doing a great job, by the way. Like I said, I am very proud of all the resources that you provide for the community. That's something that charter schools can't do. That's something that nobody else can actually be proud of except for the public school systems. And so you doing a bang up job all by yourself, not having to have, parents obligated to come, and do stuff. We're doing great. And I think that you guys have done a great job. And if I'm selected, I hope that I can do just as good a job as you guys. And that would be my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
So Superintendent Cruz, just to double confirm here, the final candidate is not able to be interviewed.
That is correct. She has had a family emergency, and so therefore she would not be able to be here today. So we believe that it's still the board's prerogative in regards to you considering her candidacy based on the application that she submitted and the information brought forward by the committee.
We'll go to public comments momentarily. We will now go to item 6.02, public comments of candidate interviews. Lieutenant Cruz, do we have any public comments at this time? Okay, so Hearing that, we will go ahead and move on to item 6.03, the discussion and action to select candidate for provisional appointment to the Board of Trustees to fill a seat vacated by former board member Carrie Rosado. Discussion.
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, if the three candidates we interviewed today are representative of the parents of our district, we have really awesome parents in our school district. Having three candidates that are parents of children in our district is really a huge advantage because that's what we want on our school board as parents of children in our school district or who have been in our school district. And I think that that when we look at our school board and the makeup of our school board, that having these parents being interviewed is very nice to have. And I'm not ready to recommend anybody, but I would like to just recognize that fact as something that should be important when we do evaluate which candidate we do choose. I also know that that when I first joined the board, actually when I first interviewed, I was actually interviewing for an appointment before I ran for office. I really didn't quite understand what it was to be to be on a school board. So I would like us to be considerate of those candidates who interviewed who didn't really quite understand the role and what they like to do on the board, because it's kind of a new thing for them. And it was new to me, and I really didn't understand. I come from the corporate environment. So all I knew is that I did want to have an effect on the future of our education and of our children, because I do a lot of mentoring. So I think that it's important for us to recognize as well that that for the most part, many candidates really don't quite grasp the responsibility of being a school board trustee. So I think that's important to realize as well as a candidate.
Just want to make a comment too. I just want to thank all the individuals who came before us today. And I want to thank them for their background and for being parents and involved. And I think that's critical in terms of seeking a position on the board, somebody who has, been involved out there and done a lot of things, because this is going to require a lot of things, a lot of involvement at the school board. And I cannot relate to the individuals here because when I became a board member, that's how I became a board member. I went through the interview process. So I can relate to all the individuals here who came before us. And then, of course, I was selected. And 25 years later, I still sit here on the board. But it's been quite an experience. But again, I want to thank everyone who applied and for their involvement with our district. Thank you.
Just wanted to correct you there, George. It's 28 years, not 25.
Okay, thank you.
But regarding all the candidates here, I do understand this is a very, I wouldn't say brutal process. It's just it's hard. You're coming here and answering questions that necessarily you don't need to understand at this time. And I totally get that. The experience comes with the position. And I do feel strongly about that once you're put in this kind of position is when you truly learn all the intricacies of being a board trustee and knowing what is necessary to make the right decisions as you keep going forward. Right to you, right? But that as far as the three candidates that interviewed here, I really do appreciate all the time and effort that you put into the school district and all the I do appreciate that fact. That's it. So as far as that goes, that's all the comments I have.
Thank you, Vice President Tran. And I will agree and just, really appreciate the thoughtfulness in the responses that we got in the packets, as well as the feedback that we got from the advisory committee. It was clear in the responses we received today. I think the common theme is that there is a deep commitment to our district by the parents that are here, and it speaks to that level of involvement, which is really exciting. I think, regardless of the outcome of today, that it does give me some hope and some confidence that, we have some really solid parents in our district who are ready to step up as well in other capacities. Superintendent. And I know that was one of the things that the board was really prioritizing is we know just how critical our stakeholders are and to have input from them as well. So I know all the board members received that feedback and I've had a chance to take a look at that feedback as well. And we can certainly use that to, to help us make a decision, a difficult decision here.
Madam Board President, I would like to make one more comment. When I was first exposed to the Franklin-McKinley School Board, I interviewed for an appointment such as the candidates today, and I didn't get selected. Well, that didn't stop me from having an interest in education. And I think maybe one board member, remembers that. It took 5 years for me to decide to run, but I did decide to run and I got elected. I was fortunate to get elected. But I always cared about, it wasn't whether I won or not that board appointment. It was about whether I could have an impact on education. So if I didn't get appointed, I considered running the next time that opportunity came up, and I was fortunate to get elected. But I remembered that my commitment to education and to helping our future, our kids, our students, was more important than me getting appointed or winning an election, because there are many ways to volunteer and to have an impact on our future.
Thank you, Board Member Rodriguez. So in terms of the process, Mr. Ruiz, if I could just ask, this process will follow similar to other board meetings where there'll be a motion needed in a second?
That's correct.
And so the motion would be to call for the vote. I do have a ballot here that is not a closed ballot, so you would put your name on the ballot, select the one candidate that you would like to move forward, and then we will tally and report that out to the public, and then board can have discussion, and then if there is a candidate that has a majority vote, then there could be a motion for the provisional appointment.
That's correct. It can either go straight to a motion and a second and a vote, or you can use a ballot where board members can express their rankings or their preferences on the ballot slips, and then we could read those results out, and that might narrow the field or might help define the field more. It really is up to how the board feels comfortable proceeding at this point.
I would like to recommend that we use the ballot first, and then
Yes.
we can go from there. What do you guys think?
I agree with that.
I'm fine with that.
I'm comfortable with that as well.
Is that a motion and a second? Or do we need that?
Or do we want to have discussion?
Does it need to be a motion? Is that?
That doesn't need to, yeah. Just go straight to that.
So are we moving straight to the ballot or?
Mhm.
is
Yep.
there a discussion? Okay.
Correct.
Comfortable with that. Sure.
So do we check mark or rank? We want
It
to,
was checked.
So that's up to the board in regards to whether you want to just vote for the one candidate and see if there's a clear choice from the board, or if you wanted to rank maybe the top two and then have discussion from there. That is completely up to the board on how you want to proceed.
So I'm thinking of a check mark, just select the
okay,
best candidate.
I'm fine with that.
So we'll select, each board member will select their,
One.
yes.
And if you could put your name on the ballot, this way we know.
Can be anonymous.
Not enough.
No.
We know your handwriting, Tom.
So these are the results of the ballot. Board members Sanchez vote for Mr. Martinez. Board member Rodriguez votes for Mr. Martinez. Vice President Tran votes for Mr. Martinez. And our board president votes for Mr. Martinez as well.
So do we need a motion in this case?
Yes.
All right, well, then I move to appoint Mr. Manuel Martinez to the Franklin-McKinley School Board, provisional appointment.
Second.
I think,
Any discussion?
is there any additional discussion at this time?
No, just to thank everybody once more for applying. They all would have been good board members, no doubt in my mind.
And I have a comment. I would like to mention that, you know, I think we've done 2 other appointments before this, or 1 other appointment. This is probably one of the hardest to do, because I saw the passion in all of our parents and their commitment towards their education of their children. So it took me a few minutes to think about thoroughly. But then again, I also thought about our future of our board and our district, and I felt that this is the best choice for us at this time. Again, we are having another election in 2022, which is coming up. And, you know, some of us could be running for reelection, but I encourage the parents that didn't get appointed to run, because it's worth the effort to run and see what it's like to share your passion to the school district and why you should be a parent who should be on the school board.
And I completely agree with those sentiments, Board Member Rodriguez. I think, you know, it's clear to me both the passion and the insight and the experience, the perspective, all of those aspects from each of our parents. Mr. Martinez, to me, stood out in terms of, you know, some of his background and some of his experience, particularly for our districts. And so ultimately that's where my, you know, vote went in terms of the paper ballot process. But regardless, I do really want to sincerely thank each of the candidates, and, you know, just as parents in general, as a new parent myself, I take that as a, you know, it's a large responsibility. So just knowing that you are here and you're willing to take on something else is you know, hats off to you, and thank you again for your commitment.
And I'm always looking for parents to be part of the school board. When I ran and was selected, I was a parent, and my children here in the district. So that's what I was looking for, especially after we lost Carrie, who was a parent, you know. So it's good to have another parent to replace Carrie. I'm glad for all the applicants were parents. Thank you.
With that, if there are no other comments, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. So,
Board President, may I make a suggestion? Since there was someone who had wanted to make public comment, but would seem to have an issue there, I would just recommend checking to see if that person has logged in and take their comment. Thank
so
you.
thank you for that, Mr. Reeves. So hearing that there is no additional public comment at this time, we'll go ahead and move for a vote on this item. So the motion has been made and seconded for the provisional appointment of Mr. Emmanuel Martinez for the vacated seat on the Franklin-McKinley School Board. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes 4 with 1 member absent. So thank you, congratulations, and thank you for your participation in this process. So we'll move to item 7. Or
Yes,
doing it.
Board President, although the provisional appointment is not affected until July 1st, we can administer the oath of office since we are not scheduled to meet before that time. As Mr.
Martinez,
come
if you'd
forward,
like to.
Would you like to?
Sure.
I, Manuel Martinez, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and to the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Mr. Martinez, I'm not sure if you'd like to make any comments, but welcome that at this time.
I'll make my comments brief. Thank you, fellow trustees. I sincerely appreciate the hard work, and I know I agree with you. It is always a hard choice to make these kinds of decisions. This is a short-term appointment. I also encourage anybody who is interested in running as well, because our society is healthier when folks are energized about being involved, and the more, the better. I don't see this as a competition. I see this as hard work that I am ready to do. So thank you very much. You have a friend immediately in me, and I hope and pray and wish us a good summer and an awesome upcoming school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, congratulations and welcome. Right, so with that, I believe we've executed the duties that we have been called upon for the time being, and I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Right, the motion has been made to adjourn. All those and seconded, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And that motion passes. We are now adjourned at 2:23 p.m. Thank you all for joining.